Yes, good morning. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, yesterday you people understood how to evaluate a given implementation of the program to evaluate a given postfix expression. Uh, and we also debugged the program, and then you understood the recursive function, and then the tar of an I problem previous to that. So now one more example on the recursion is Ackermann function. And this function, and before I explain this, I'll tell you. So this doesn't have any practical use, but it works on the principle of recursion. And this function uh, will grow too fast. Okay, so faster than even exponential. Okay, that I'll show you. I have the example program. I'll execute that and I'll show you people. So it grows too fast, even faster than the exponential function. But this function doesn't have any practical use as such, but this can be very well used to understand the recursive function call. Okay, so we'll start with this. So the first thing is this function, the Ackermann function, it takes two arguments which can be assigned a non-negative integer. So you cannot assign a negative integer value as argument to Ackermann function. What you can assign is only the non-negative integers. And how many arguments you can assign? You can pass to this function only two arguments. Okay, so like 0, 1, 2, dash dash dash. Okay, so but there is a certain limitation, and beyond that you cannot give, since this function grows exponentially, or faster than the exponential function. So there is a certain limit, and you got to stop at that limit, and beyond that limit so it will not work, and it will not give you the correct answer, since it grows faster than the exponential. Okay, so how many arguments an Ackermann function takes? Two arguments. And what type of arguments you can give? What you can give is only the non-negative integer values. Okay, like this. So now the definition of Ackermann function, so it goes like this. So I have written it in two ways. So the second way, which I have marked in the red, I think it will be easy for you to remember. So then compared to the first way, both are correct. So either you can remember this, or else you can go for remembering this. Okay, both are. But I think the second one, what I have written in red, is easier to remember than compared to the first one. Okay, so the Ackermann function is defined mainly using three equations. So the first equation is this: a of m comma n, okay, is equal to n plus 1 if m is equal to 0. If the first argument m is 0, then the result of this function, Ackermann function, is n plus 1. That is second argument plus 1 more than the second argument. Okay, so that is what is the first equation of the Ackermann function. Okay, so given m and n, which are non-negative integers, now if m is equal to 0, the result of this Ackermann function is equal to n plus 1 more than the second argument. And similarly, so if I have m and n, two non-negative integers given, m is also not equal to 0 and n is equal to 0. So m is not equal to 0, that means m is not 0, that means it is greater than 0, and n is 0. The first argument is not 0 and the second argument is 0, opposite of this one. Okay, so that time, so the Ackermann function is defined something like this. So a of m minus 1 comma 1. Okay, you subtract 1 from the first argument, and the second argument is 1, and you keep doing repeatedly this recursively, until you get this condition. Okay, the moment you get this condition, so where m is equal to 0, so you have the result as second argument 1 more than the second argument. So if a of m comma n, okay, where m is greater than 0 or m not equal to 0 and the second argument is equal to 0, so the Ackermann function is defined something like this. So you got to subtract 1 from the first argument, and the second argument is still 1. You make the second argument as 1. And the third equation, So a of m comma n, where m and n are two non-negative integers, and m not equal to 0 and n is also not equal to 0. What does it mean? So they are greater than, so they cannot be negative integers. So if I say m not equal to 0, what does it mean? It must be greater than 0, m greater than 0 and n greater than 0, because they cannot take the negative values. M greater than 0, n greater than 0. So both are non-zero values here, and non-negative and non-zero values. So then we define the Ackermann function something like this: a of m minus 1 comma, so the first argument we subtract 1, and the second argument is recursively written something like this: a of m comma n minus 1. Okay, so this is one way of understanding it, and the other one which I have written in the red color, R I have written here. So this is more easy to remember than compared to this. See here, a of 0 comma n, instead of n I have written it as 0 directly, because the first argument when m is 0, so this is what the definition is: a of 0 comma n, so I am writing it as n plus 1. The result of this, so Ackermann function is 1 more than the second argument, n plus 1, if m is equal to 0. So I have m argument as 0 now. And in the second one, so second argument is 0, a of m comma 0. Okay, if you just observe this, a of m minus 1 comma 1 it is. Okay, so we make the second, we subtract 1 from m and we make the second argument as 1. Okay, and I've already told you this doesn't have any practical use as such. Just to understand how the recursive function grows faster than exponential value, so we have this Ackermann function. If m greater than 0 and n equal to 0, this is what the definition of the Ackermann function. So, okay, and then similarly, if both are greater than 0, m also greater than 0, n also greater than 0, so this is how we define it. So a of m minus 1, you got to remember this, and the second argument is defined as a of m comma n minus 1. I have the example in the next slide, we will be solving it. OP people understood till here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this these three things you got to remember. Okay, now I have the example in the next slide, I'll show you. So the original use of Ackermann function was to show that there are functions which are not primitive recursive, that is, which cannot be computed by using only for loops with predetermined upper limits. But Ackermann function is such a function, it grows too fast to be a primitive recursive. Okay, so there is no really practical uses of it. It grows too fast to be useful, and so strictly speaking, so you cannot give the input argument 4 comma 3 and above. Okay, so even it won't work for 4 comma 3 also, because it grows too fast, and the computer resource gets exhausted to get the result of this particular argument. So can I give 5 comma 2 or 5 comma 3 or 5 comma 4? No, not at all possible. So this is the limit. Okay, so less than this you can give. So if you give 4 comma 3, so it grows too exponentially, and it will consume all the system resources, and it won't be able to run further. Okay, so example I have now. So this is the example I have taken now. See now, a of 1 comma 3 I have written. Okay, now this is what case now? So there were 3 equations which I showed you. So these are the 3 equations which I showed you. One is, in the first equation I have the first argument as 0. In the second equation I have the second argument as 0. In the third equation both the arguments are greater than 0. So now the equation which I showed you, so this equation, so which equation this matches now? Does it match 1, 2 or 3?
3, sir.
3. It matches 3 because both are greater than 0. Okay, this is also greater than 0 and this is also greater than 0. Now how do you define this now? Now you got to define this by using equation 3. Okay, let me go back to the equation 3. So this is what I have to use in order to define it. Now it is defined: a of m minus 1, 1 less than this first argument, and the second argument is recursively again defined as a of m comma n minus 1. So same thing I have done here. See here, So a of 1 comma 3, now it is written as a of, this is 0 because m minus 1, okay, 1 less than this first argument, I got 0, and the second argument 3 is again represented as what, a of what it is, m minus, sorry, a of m comma n minus 1, okay. So m value is how much, 1, so you can see 1 here, and the second argument is n minus 1, so n is 3, 3 minus 1 is 2, okay. I got this. So next what I have to do, I have to find the value of a of 1 comma 2, okay. So recursively, now a of 1 comma 2, how to write it again, which equation this is matching among those three? See, a of 1 comma 3, I defined it like this. Now again a of 1 comma 2 I have to define, yes or no? Now a of 1 comma 2 is defined something like this. Now which equation this is matching now? Third one again, because this is 1 which is greater than 0, and the second argument is 2 again which is greater than 0. Now again if I define this using the third equation form, so it is something a of 0, okay, because this is m minus 1. M minus 1 is nothing but 1 minus 1, okay, 0, and then this 2, so a of m comma n minus 1. So now the n value is 2. 2 minus 1 is 1. OP people are following, or do you want me to write here? I'll take a pen. Now here m was 1, and what was the value of n here? 3. N is 3. Now when I substitute it, so this is the equation, a of m, the third equation I'm writing, sorry, m minus 1 comma, this is not there, a of m minus 1 comma a of m comma n minus 1. This is what we are using, okay. Now when I substitute this, when I use this, when I apply this equation, so this is what I'm getting, and again this a of 1 comma 2, so we are applying the third equation. Now when I apply the third equation, so now for this equation m is equal to 1 and n is equal to 2. It is not 3 now, okay. So now 1 minus 1 is 0 because m minus 1, m is 1, 1 minus 1 is 0, and when I apply this for the second argument, a of it is m comma n minus 1, that is 2 minus 1, 1, okay. Next, now I have to find what is this a of 1 comma 1 next, okay. See, a of 1 comma 3 is equal to this, and a of 1 comma 2 is equal to this. Now I got to find a of 1 comma 1. So a of 1 comma 1 is equal to, and again this argument is again greater than 0, and this argument is also greater than 0. Now which equation I have to apply? So the same equation I have to apply again. OP people are following?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I have to apply the same equation again. So if you just observe now, so m value is 1 here. M is 1 and n is also 1. Now when I apply m minus 1, so this is 0, and this one, the second argument, is again written as a of m comma n minus 1. So m value is 1, this is 1, and this becomes 0. So now I got to find what is a of 1 comma 0. I have found that a of 1 comma 1 is equal to a of 0 comma a of 1 comma 0. Now I have to find what is a of 1 comma 0. Now which equation this apply now? So can I use this definition for representing this a of 1 comma 0? Which one I have to use?
Second
Second one I have to use.
Second.
So because first one, the first argument should be 0. For the second one, the second argument should be 0. Third one, none of them are zeros, correct, right? So now I have to go for applying the second equation. Okay. Sorry. Now, see now, a of 1 comma 0 is equal to, okay, I'll just move back. This one. This is what we are applying. Okay. So a of m comma 0 is equal to a of m minus 1 comma 1. So a of, we are applying this, a of m comma 0 is equal to what it is, a of 0 comma so a of m minus 1 comma 1, sorry. So this one, a of, this is m minus 1 comma 0. This is what we are applying. So m value is 1 here, m value is 1 and n value is 0. Now here, this is m and this is n. Now this is written as this. So m minus 1 it is, so that is 1 minus 1, 0, and this is 1. Now I want to represent how this a of 0 comma 1. What is a of 0 comma 1? So a of 0 comma 1 is equal to what? So this is, this, to solve this I have to apply which equation? First equation or the second equation or the third equation?
First one.
First equation.
First equation.
And
Now a of 0 comma 1 is equal to, let me go back and show you.
two.
So a of 0 comma n is equal to n plus 1. You take the second argument and to that you add 1. Okay, I am taking the second argument. This is the second argument what I have written, n. To that I am adding 1. How much I am getting? 2. Getting? So 2 I got. Next you observe. So now, since a of 0 comma 1 is equal to 2, a of 1 comma 0 is also equal to what? See, a of 0 comma 1 is equal to what? 2. But you know that a of 1 comma 0 is equal to what? A of 0 comma 1. Now what is the value of this now? A of 1 comma 0. Yes, mute.
2, sir.
2 again. Okay, so a of 1 comma 0 is also 2. Observe. So a of 1 comma 0 is also 2 now. Now I know that a of 0 comma 1 value is 2, and that implies a of 1 comma 0 is also what? 2 now. Okay, next. Now this you found. So a of 1 comma 0 value is 2. Now using this 2, I got to find out what is the value of a1 of 1 comma 1. So a of 1 comma 1 is equal to, now I am substituting this now, a of 1 comma 0 value, that is 2 here. Okay, a of 1 comma 1 is equal to a of 0 comma 2. This a of 1 comma 0 I have written its value, that is 2. Understood? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now when I write, a of 1 comma 1 is equal to a of 0 comma 2. Now what is this value? So n plus 1 again. So n value is 2 plus 1. How much I am getting? 3. Now I got the value of a of 1 comma 1. Okay. Now since you got the a of value of a of 1 comma 1, now you can easily find the value of what? A of 1 comma 2. Okay, by substituting the value of a of 1 comma 1 here. Okay, now in the next, a of 1 comma 2 is equal to a of, I am substituting here, this 0 I will write as it is, and this a of 1 comma 1 I will substitute 3. Okay, now when evaluating this, now applying the first equation, so we have n value as 3 and 1 more than that, so you got 4. Now you got the value for a of 1 comma 2 as 4. Okay. Now to find the value of a of 1 comma 3, substitute this value of a 1 comma 2 here. Okay. In the next step, you have a of 1 comma 3 is equal to, so this a of 0 comma 4, this a of 1 comma 2 value you have found just now, that is 4, and substitute it here. Now the value of a of 1 comma 3 as per the Ackermann function is 5. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, so I want you to do it for a of 1 comma 4. Okay. Start doing. So same thing. See, first you have to keep applying. So since it is of the third equation form, keep applying the definition of the third equation form until you get a of 0 comma 1, and then backtrack, to get the value of a of 1 comma 4. Yeah, start now. So the final value for a of 1 comma 3 is 5. This is the answer. Now similarly you find for a of 1 comma 4. Yeah, start doing and tell me the answer.
6.
How much?
6.
No, I'm not able to hear you.
6.
6. Is that correct? Have the program. We will run the program and we'll verify whether it is 6 is correct or not. And similarly, f 2 comma 4 also you have to do. Now what is the maximum? Can I do 4 comma 3?
No, sir.
4 comma 3 is not possible. Less than 4 comma 3. 3 comma 3 is the maximum. Now after 4 comma 3, so not possible because it grows too fast exponentially, and so you'll not get the results. Do it for a comma 2, a of 2 comma 4. So this you are told it is 6. I'll write it down. So similarly do it for a of 2 comma 4. You have to solve more steps to get the result of this. Just make it fast and tell me the answer. So a comma f2 comma 4 is equal to how much? So how many steps you got in the forward direction? Okay, so now I have the implementation of the same. So just keep computing the answer for that af2 comma 4. So we'll just discuss the implementation. Okay, so I have taken the function prototype with the name a. Okay, Ackermann function. I have given the function name as a, and two arguments you have to pass, two non-negative arguments m and n. Okay, we have defined, and then reading two integer values. Okay, non-negative integer values m and n, and then making a call to the Ackermann function by passing those two arguments m and n. Now here the first thing, and as I already told in the previous class, every recursive function should have a termination condition. So the termination condition here is here, if m is equal to 0, we return n plus 1. Else if n is equal to 0, this is what the definition. I recursively call the same function by passing m minus 1 as the first argument and 1 as the second argument. So if m is also not 0, n is also not 0, then what we do? We pass the first argument as m minus 1, and the second argument again recursively we make a call to a of m comma n minus 1. Is this clear? So this is the definition of the first equation, this is the second definition of the second equation, and this is the definition of the third equation.
Yes, sir.
So recursively, so we are calling. Here if m is equal to 1, we don't recursively call it, we just return n plus 1. So if n is equal to 0, the second argument is equal to 0, again we recursively call the same function by passing the first argument as 1 less than the m value and the second argument as 1. And if both m is also greater than 0, n is also greater than 0, then again we recursively call the same function by making the first argument as 1 less than the previous value, and second argument is again a recursive call. See, a of m comma n minus 1. Okay, this is the complete implementation of the Ackermann function, and if I run this, so we can get the results, and the maximum I can go till 3 comma 3. So if I give 4 comma 3, it will not respond to me. I'll show you that. Yeah, I'll open the program. So the same program which I showed you in the PPT. Okay. So I'll compile this now. So it is asking to enter two numbers. So we solved it for 1 and 3, I think. One. Let me give the same thing, 1 and 3, and we got the result as 5. Okay. Alt F5. See, output is 5. Now again I'll run it. So this is what we solved just now. I'll just give it. I had asked you to do it for 1 comma 4. Okay, 1 and 4. Now someone said answer is 6. Let me check. The answer is 6. That is correct. And then 2 comma 4. I had asked you to do it for 2 comma 4. Anybody solved it for 2 comma 4? Nobody has solved? Are still solving? Can I get the answer before I click enter? Yes?
Still solving.
How much? Louder, I can't hear you. Still solving?
Yes, sir. 11.
11. Okay.
11.
Even I don't know. Let me check. Yeah, 11 is the correct answer. Good. Now I'll just go with one more run. So 11 is the correct answer. Good. And now I'll I did 1 comma 3, 1 comma 4 I did. So let me do 1 comma 5 also. Alt F5 7, okay, and then Control F9. So I'll 2 comma 4 is done. Now let me do 2 comma 5. Alt F5 is 13. 2 comma 5 is 13. So now I'll do 3 comma 1. Alt F5. So again 3 comma 1 I'm getting 13. Now I'll do 3 comma 2. Alt F5. Alt F5. It's 29. Now I'll do 3 comma 3. 3 comma 3. 61 I am getting. Okay. I'll do 3 comma 4. Even this also fine. 125 I am getting. Now, what are the limit I told? 4 comma 3. 4 comma 3. Okay. 4 comma 2 will do, and then we will do it as 4 comma 3. 4 and 2. See, it is taking time. You can just observe. 4 comma 2 I have written. I have pressed enter. That means it's still processing. Now it got finished. I'll press Alt F5. See the result? I'm not getting. Okay. That means it has grown too fast, faster than exponential, and there are no resources. Okay. Now again, let me run. Control F9. So it is asking me again, enter 2 numbers. You got to just observe here. Or let me do clear screen. So let me finish entering 1 comma 2. 1 comma or 1 comma 1. Alt F5. See, output is 3. Now I'll go back. Let me add clear screen. Okay. So now I'll give 4 comma 4 space 3. Okay. Even for this also I'll press enter. Observe now, cursor is blinking near 3. Once I press enter, cursor goes to the next line and it will wait for time. That means it's computing, and once the limit of all the resources in my system gets exceeded, it will show me something value. Observe here. So it is still running. Still running. So now it got finished. Now if I press Alt F5, see, this is what I am getting. Okay. So the maximum limit is that 4 comma 2. Okay. 4 comma 1 you can give, I think. 4 comma 2, from 4 comma 2 onwards it will not take. 4 comma 1 is also not possible, I think. I will see. Alt F5. Yeah, that is also not possible. Control F9. 40. Yeah, 40 is fine. Alt F5. So 40. Now 41, 42, 43. So beyond that it is not possible. After 40 it is not possible. Okay. So OP understood?
Yes.
Even if they ask in exam to find the value for the arguments, for these 2 arguments using the Ackermann function, so they don't ask you more than 4 comma 0. Okay. So they are limited to till 4 comma 0. Okay. So So just take some values and try to practice it. Okay, so that is with respect to the Ackermann function. So next is the next topic is queues. Okay, so we have finished the stacks and then the recursion. Now the next topic is the queues. Okay, now what you are seeing here is a queue. So this is a queue. So stack, there was only one pointer, that is stop. Okay, and used to insert and delete from that end. So both insertion operation or the push operation and the pop operation was done at the same end, and that normally we used to call it as top of the stack. Okay, so now this is the queue with two ends. So queue normally has two ends. One is the front end, the other one is called as the rear end. Now insertion is always done at the rear end, and deletion we will be doing it from the front end. So I want to add a new element to this queue. So I add using the rear end. I just increment the rear end by 1, and then I'll be adding a new element here. Now I want to delete. I'll be deleting it from the front end. I just increase the front by 1. Okay, so if I increase the front by 1, so front was pointing to this, now it will point to the next element, and now so this is not accessible. That means I've deleted this. Okay, and if I go for displaying the queue after increasing the front, it will always display from what? So the front till the rear, where the rear is pointing. Okay, so now if I say what is the content of the queue, it will always start displaying from the front till the rear. Okay, so A, B, C, D. Now after displaying D, it stopped because rear is pointing here. So hope you understood.
Yes, sir.
And this is again a linear data structure, but again in linear, what type of data structure it is? Stacks, it is last in first out data structure, LIFO data structure, but this is FIFO data structure, first in first out. Okay, so similar to your normal queues which you stand in your daily life. Okay, so the one who is standing first in the queue will be the first to get out of the queue, and the person who comes will be added to the rear end of the queue. So queues. So queue is again a linear list of elements in which insertion and deletion takes place at different ends. But stack, it used to happen at the same end. Now here it happens at the different ends. The end at which the new element is inserted is called as rear. Okay, so the new element where we insert, it's called as the rear end, and the end from which the element is deleted is called as the front end. So we have two pointers there. Okay, so stacks, there was only one pointer and it was top, and it was initially initialized to -1. But in queues, so what we are discussing now is ordinary queue, and similarly in queues also you have something called a circular queue, priority queue, D queue, all these things are there. So but what now we are understanding is an ordinary queue. Okay, an ordinary queue with two pointers, front and rear. So new element gets added to the queue at the rear end, and when you're deleting an element from the queue, it gets deleted from the front end. So there are two pointers, you got to remember this, front and rear. So do we need to call it as front only, and this do we need to call it as rear? Not necessary, you can give any name. So since this convention shoots more correct, right? Either you can take it, I don't want to use front, sir, I want to just name it as F, use it. Now I want to name this just as R instead of rear, take it, it doesn't matter. Okay, so but this convention front and rear suits very well here. Okay, and Q as the property of FIFO, that is what I told you. So it operates with this nature, first in first out, whereas stack operates with the property last in first out. Okay, and here to implement a queue we require two variables or two pointers. One is the front and other one is the rear. Now how do we implement a queue? Now stack implementation you have understood. Okay, so same way we did it. So type def struct, and then instead of this int front and rear, in stack we had only one member. What was it? What was it? Top. Int top. But queues we have 2 pointers. So not pointers, 2 variables. One is front and another one is the rear. And a character array to hold the elements of the queue. And similarly in the stack we add a character array to hold the elements of the stack. Correct, no? And then we have a variable declared to this as queue. Okay. Now, so if I say just queue, so type def I've used. Now I want to declare a variable to this structure. Now I can just say queue. Now what is this queue? So this queue letter, what you are seeing, is a variable to this structure. Okay. Now, so if I don't use the type definition, so then I got to declare it as struct queue. So I got to write. So if I not use this type definition, so assume I have not used it. Now how to create it? Something like this. I'll show you. Struct what it is, queue you got to give a name to this. Say for example struct queue you are given. Okay, struct queue. This is how you got to declare the variable to this structure. Since I've used the type definition now, so all these things is not necessary. Just I can say queue and then queue. Now this queue is a variable of type this structure. Okay. Now how do you access the front and the rear? No, normal. So structure I've already told you. If you want to access any of the structure member using a structure variable, now the structure variable is queue. Using this variable, if you want to access a structure member, you got to make use of the dot operator. So queue dot rear, and what we are doing that we are initializing it to -1. Now what we were doing for the top in the stack, again top was also initially initialized to what? -1. Now same way, so front and rear both we initialize it to -1 in the queues also. OP people understood till here? OP people understood till here? Please respond.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you have 2 pointers, 2 variables front and rear, and both of them are initialized to -1. So for example, as defined max queue size as 25. Say I have defined a queue of size 25 or something like this. So 0 to dash 24. This is my queue. Now what I'm doing, so both front is equal to -1 and rear is also -1. So if both front and rear are -1, what does it mean? The queue is empty. Hope you understood?
Yes,
If
sir.
front is also -1, rear is also -1, what does it indicate? There is no elements in the queue. So what was your interpretation if top is -1 in stacks?
Stack was empty.
Stack empty. And similarly here also, if front and rear, if they are same, so front is also equal to -1 and rear is also equal to -1, what does it mean? Front is equal to rear is equal to front is equal to rear. What does it mean? The queue is empty. And similarly, how do you say the queue is full? So if rear is equal to, say when you are adding new item to the queue, you will add it to the rear end by incrementing the rate. So when rear is pointing to this, when R is pointing to this 24, queue is full. That means you can check the queue full condition by using rear is equal to, what is that? Can anyone tell? Can anyone tell what it is? Max q minus 1. So this one, max q minus 1. So by using this, you can just say check whether the queue is full or not. But there are few disadvantages with this ordinary queue, and just to overcome the disadvantage, we go for the circular queue and DQ and priority queue. Okay, now what are the disadvantages? We'll understand. So I hope all of you understood with this queue declaration. Okay, you got to take a macro max queue, initialize it to some value, so the desired value, and then using a type def definition, create a structure with 2 integer members, 1 character array, and declare a variable to it. So this queue acts as an alias name to this structure right now, and now using this queue you can go for declaring any number of variables. Okay, now declare a variable with the name q, which is just now acting as a variable to this structure. Now using that, I'm accessing the structure members rear and front. I'm initializing them to -1 initially. Okay, if both front and rear, if they are equal to -1, or in other words front is equal to rear, so q is empty. If rear is equal to max q -1, then the queue is full. Okay, now just a minute. Okay, I'll just go to the next slide now. Okay, so same thing now. So queue insert and queue delete. Now before inserting to the queue, as I already showed you, so you have to check whether the queue is full or not. Okay, now I've already told you in the previous slide now how to check whether the queue is full. If rear is equal to max q -1, then you say queue is full and then exit. Otherwise you got to add an element to the queue. How to add? So earlier you used to add it as s of plus plus top is equal to element, but now see now, so this array is also inside the structure. Now how to access this array? Items, again you have to say q dot items. Okay, observe now, q dot items, and inside that you got to pre-increment the rear and add the element. Now to access the rear, again q dot rear. Have people understood this statement now?
Yes.
So items is again inside the structure. Now how to access this item? Q dot item, and then rear is also inside the structure, and rear again to access you have to use q dot rear. Okay, and you are pre-incrementing that and you are equating it to element. So and then finally returning, and similarly delete. Now I've already told you, if q dot front is equal to q dot rear, what does it mean? They are equal. Okay, so they are equal. Sorry, the queue is empty and you are printing it and returning what? So the element pointed by the front by incrementing the front. Okay. Okay, so disadvantages of ordinary queue. So from here I'll continue tomorrow. Okay, so I think there is one more class happening and that is interfering, so let me stop here. So from the disadvantages of ordinary queue, from here I'll continue tomorrow.